of this Monday morning, and also to give you quite a kickstart for the entire week. This morning, of course, Robert Nyonyintono joins me, Felix Nkunda and Mollen Kenyena. Mollen, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers out there. Well, it was quite a weekend and like you started it off, still very sad about what happened right there in Kasese. And of course, you look at how the parents are grieving right now, and I think everyone who has kids in schools right now in that area is kind of worried because we don't know that this situation has been, really figured out. But also we have an assurance. The Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha, did come out yesterday to give a statement on the fact that government will very soon be giving more details on that. But we want to join the families and ask them to be a bit calm. And of course, it's a sad time. You can't be calm at that moment. But we also do think that police and security organs will be on this to make sure that they're able to at least prevent more attacks like those. And the ADF have been really attacking that western side of the country, especially Kasese. And right now going on to children, this is the worst of the worst that we have seen, I think, from ADF, and it is something to be sad about. We pray that, the little ones and the people that died in that attack, may their souls rest in eternal peace.
Amen. Well, Robert, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
It's we must say it's been a sad weekend. As a parent, as a Ugandan, it is a very confusing time, I must say. But we can only pray for the families who lost their children. Of course, not only children were killed, because even the gate man was killed, even the neighboring to that school. We pray. And we hope that finally we shall come to the end of this nonsense called Allied Democratic Forces. Because they have caused a lot of havoc in that part of the country. We know our government has tightened efforts aimed at fighting and eliminating this group, because what really happened, those that were there many times would equate it to what happened in Chichwamba Technical Institute when rebels went and did something similar to this. We know this government has been able to conquer a number of armed groups, including the Lord's Resistance Army that was terrorizing people in northern Uganda, doing all sorts of havoc. But we just hope that this we shall wake up to one day when there is no more Allied Democratic Forces. But away from that, yesterday was also Father's Day. Belated Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, more so those that are worth their salt, that have been real fathers in lives of their children, and not just donors, but also to other people who are fatherly figures. Today we have many families headed by mothers. Sometimes you call them single mothers, but they are both the mothers and fathers. Some by choice, others not by choice. But those that it wasn't by choice, your special ladies, to fit in shoes of men, at the same time do your motherly role. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Well, indeed, since I know that we have two wonderful fathers on set with us, I guess a belated Happy Father's Day to you, gentlemen. Well, I see the gentleman on the extreme left shaking his head. Felix, good morning.
Good morning, Philo. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Good.
Welcome back from the weekend.
Well, we're here, but it would be unfair for me if I didn't add my voice to send condolences to the people in Kasese, as they were excited about the return of their king and trying to plan on how they'll celebrate this. This befell that part of our country. It is very, very sad. It's inhuman. It's uncouth, it's heinous, it's all these bad words you can ever pick to say about it. Transferring guilt where it's not actually meant innocent children. The pain of the parents, I can imagine. We do send our condolences to the people of Kasese. Our prayers are with you, but also to to government. We must find a way of ending this. We must find a way of ending this. And of course, the statements that came from our leaders, all of them are quite to make us feel more to believe that everything will be fine. And we pray that this at some point becomes a story for us to tell than a reality we live with on a daily. It is sad. It is sad. But Monday is here. It's a new week, new challenges, new opportunities awaits all of us. Father's Day celebrations were yesterday. Fortunately or unfairly, people never celebrate that day like they celebrate other days. But well, it is what it is. And I think it's very unfair, I'll be honest. Yesterday I was thinking to myself, sometimes, and this I think I've said before, it's because of upbringing. We have been taught to be men in silence.
Yes.
To be men who never speak out when they hurt. To be men who never cry, when never complain, never. A man doesn't do this, a man doesn't. So because of that training and nurturing, we are losing so much in regards to what we actually deserve as fathers and as men. So on a day like that, people just let it pass. But I think it's a big day to celebrate fathers.
Oh, yes.
I can tell you, Philomena, without fear of contradiction, sometimes if you had an opportunity to open up a man's heart and head, you would run with what they carry on their heart and in their head.
I may never have to get a clear picture, but I actually do acknowledge that the men, the fathers, they have their fair share of struggles.
And it's unfortunate in African setup because of, as I've said, the raising and the upbringing. We have been taught not to show our pain, like to have that closet where you hide every other thing, but inside there, every man is breaking somehow. Every man is crying somehow. Every man is, so I think it was only fair, at least this once, in how many days, to take it out and let them feel that they are loved and appreciated.
Absolutely.
Trust me, it means a lot.
Yes.
I've seen some men the whole of my life, and you ask yourself, you've seen men who are never home Monday to Monday, and like, what? Like, but it's only because, like, I saw one of the tweets yesterday that was made by someone. Like, you laugh at men who don't have homes, that at 60 you're still renting. You laugh at men who can't drive, you laugh at men who don't dress smartly, but all those things they can't do because whatever they earn is not for them, is for somebody else. So I think it was only fair for us to celebrate men and sometimes to also tell them that we are proud of them. And fathers, being a father is a blessing. That's one thing I can tell you for sure.
That's true. Speaking of fathers, the father of our nation here, His Excellency, is okay. He healed. There is no COVID in the picture anymore. He did make the announcement, and I can say the prayers actually really worked. But he had some very important questions to ask, and he was tasking Dr. Musenero and also the Ministry of Health, talking about this gentleman who came up with COVID-X, and he said it's been 3 years down the road. The man came claiming that this COVID-X could actually heal us. Why hasn't this been looked into? Could he have been lying? Or maybe is this laxity coming in from Dr. Musenero's ministry or the Ministry of Health? Very important questions. I don't know, Robert, how do you feel about that?
I think the biggest challenge was that, certain things are driven by demand. When we had the vaccination, many people now moved away from something that can treat. Because you find that when vaccines came, it was like, now it's a done deal. Even if you get COVID, to be just like a fever. And to be honest, if Musei had not gotten vaccinated, Who knows what could have happened? But he's one of the people that I know got the first jab, second jab, got a booster dose, another booster dose, because every time PPU would show us His Excellency getting these shots. So had he not gotten, maybe the worst could have happened. So people so much relied on vaccination. And you see, then the demand was less for Covidex, because why would Professor Gwal and maybe continue injecting money into something, yet there was no demand for it? Even when you go to a number of pharmacies and all that, you find Covidex is there in the shelves, but no one is coming to purchase it. So demand affects so much the need for someone to continue investing into something.
But also, it's also a funny question, because even if it's about demand, why would I buy medicine if I'm not sick? So let's be serious about it.
If there's no demand,
what pushes demand?
why would you continue?
Need.
Today we are using
so
flashes,
we can't be
CDs.
Questioning that.
Maybe as a preventative.
Because let me just give you an example. The days of Felix here, they had what they called cassette tapes.
Wait, what? Oh, okay.
You know, if you wanted to listen to music, you had a cassette tape that you'd put in, and then the thing goes. The days of Mollen here, it is either flash or a CD or something like that. So you can't continue manufacturing cassettes when even the not manufacturing, producing gadgets that are using these cassettes. So automatically you cannot invest in drugs.
Probably it could have been looked at from a wider point of view, like aside from just Covidex, maybe there are very many other people there who are doing things.
But Dr.
or inventing
Mosonero
things.
said we are in a process of, I think, the vaccine. Uganda, and there is a lot of money that went into that. Remember, I even purchased genetic rats, genetically modified rats and all that. Oh, there's some work happening in the ministry there as far as vaccines, and then is it second rights? It's a long story, but I think we must have Dr. Museno come here and explain how far we've gone, because we injected some good money into that sector.
To give us and show us the progress that is being made.
Oh, but Philomena, also yesterday Uganda cranes lost to Algeria.
Oh yes, oh
Felix.
yes. Oh,
It was
yes.
quite a very ugly game. Unfortunately, I managed to watch the game. Unfortunately, I really don't even know why I was. I'll be honest with you.
Why unfortunately?
The game was shoddy.
Yes.
The players were
They not ready?
They were ready,
So it
definitely.
was what
They were
kind of
playing away from home.
Yes.
And it is evident that the people in charge of soccer in this country have big-headedly refused to make revision in issues of soccer. So we shall keep on being ashamed.
Yes.
Left, right, center. I don't know the
On a
feeling.
global
I don't know. I don't know if this is only me feeling like this, but I feel there's a lot of jokery, mimicking, and it's a jargon way of approach. We feel like this is not. I don't know if you saw yesterday's game.
I did not watch, so I did not watch it though.
Yeah, I remember gone are the days when we used to be excited about Uganda Cranes playing. Somebody didn't even know that we were playing yesterday.
Very
some
many
of us
people
who
did not know that.
honestly, as I said, it was unfortunate I watched the game. It was so annoying. But honestly, I don't know why. For the first time, Ugandans are choosing to keep quiet about something of national importance.
But Felix,
I don't know why they are keeping quiet.
Felix, you're the same person here who told us. I think Ugandans are at a point where they feel like even if they complain and complain, there is no.
Actually,
they haven't been
but
given a valid response.
But we
to
must
that.
talk about Uganda Cranes. We must start that discussion.
I've been talking about this, except the
where
voices
are
are
they
not
talking?
heard. And first of all, you're talking about the leaders of an organization or a docket that whenever you talk about them, you might end up in bad books somewhere, somehow. So I think people have been silenced in talking about where Uganda Crane's problem really is. Because whoever comes out and says, no, it's probably the leader, that person, you know, is...
So
Yeah,
you fear to
so
step
I'm
on.
thinking even the people, they were saying the comments on Twitter from yesterday, even this morning, people are giving their views and their comments about Uganda Cranes, but who
let's
is
be
listening
honest,
from
let's
Twitter?
be honest.
No one.
And let me
We
tell you a
haven't been
funny
given a
story
platform
yesterday.
to do that.
This is too much.
We need to do something about
How
Uganda
can you say we
soccer.
can't speak? You just come and take our
Even the
mouth of
legends.
tongue.
Yesterday, Felix, I met some person Felix has been in soccer for some time. Ever heard of the person called Obadia? Is it Obadia Semakula?
Yes.
I hear he was once a star, football. I met this person. Something has to be done. He was talking about this game. I think he also has some mental challenges, and people were telling me, don't joke, that was once a star of Uganda. That was once a star. I'm like,
guys,
this was
so
once
painful.
a star? Loitering with things in a bag, funny. The man is...
But that may not be directly connected to the game.
no, some things inspire.
Well, this...
And some
game,
demoralize.
the previous game, the
yeah.
fact that one, we can't play here.
That
Contradicting
is already
steps, that's
an
what the
issue,
burden now,
yes.
that you can't host a game. You're spending money to go somewhere close to the country. I don't even know.
Let's leave soccer. Let's leave
Anyway,
soccer.
this conversation, I am
expert
sure
there.
that very many people have a lot to talk about it. And
the talk will start.
the talk has already started.
Trust me.
It just has to continue until
Everything that has
responses
a
are
beginning
given.
has an end, man. That's the
Responses
nature
have
of life.
given,
I
have been
can tell
given.
you.
Anyway, right now we'll go through our local stories and international stories. Robert.
Let's start with the First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, who sent out her condolence message to the families of the children or students that perished in the ADF attack. The First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, condoned the attack of Rubiriha Secondary School in Kasese district, which claimed 37 students. Mrs. Museveni addressed the media from State House Nakasero, where she is currently under quarantine. She expressed sincere condolence and deepest sympathy on behalf of government, and also appealed to all people to pray for the bereaved families and the greater community. Grieving parents and relatives convened at Wera General Hospital in Kasese to collect bodies of their children, the victims of a massacre by ADF that happened on Friday night. As the community grapples with profound grief, questions linger about the motive behind the senseless act of violence.
Operation Shuja in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is ensuring the protection of civilians and adherence to international humanitarian law and peace building. But despite all efforts by the UPDF and FADC, there are some small pockets of splinter ADF groups who take advantage of the porous borders to commit atrocities against innocent civilians on their side of Uganda and, of course, Congo border.
And relatedly, as we grieve the burial of bodies of students who were hacked to death by suspected ADF militants, have begun with 20 girls being laid to rest. The other bodies, who could not be identified, have been taken to Kabari Hospital for DNA management. ICT Minister Byakanga Godfrey, who represented government, advised communities not to panic as security is in control. The minister also said investigations are not only focusing on ADF militants, but also on wrangles between the directors of the school that was attacked.
Now, Minister Mary Babalanda and Peace Motuzo have expressed joy for traveling the first time in the newly launched MV Palm ferry transporting passengers to and from Buvuma Island. Now, the ministers made the visit to launch a speedboat to the office of the RDC Buvuma and also celebrate Women's Day. Babalanda asked Buvuma Islanders to embrace the parish development model for the total transformation of the island into a money economy.
Looking at some of the international stories, Ukrainian troops have recaptured Piatkatki, a village in the west of Zaporizhia region, Kyiv's second gain on that front since it launched its counteroffensive earlier this month. A Russian-installed official in the partly occupied Zaporizhia region, Vladimir Rogov, said Ukraine had taken operational control of the settlement and that Russian troops were trying to counterattack with shelling. There was no immediate comment from Ukraine on the situation, and Al Jazeera could not independently confirm the battlefield reports. Ukraine said on June 12th it had taken control of Lobkov, a village next to Piatkatsky. Pakistan authorities have arrested 10 alleged human traffickers after it emerged that many of the dozens of migrants and refugees who drowned off Greece's coast on June 14th were from the South Asian nation. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also ordered an immediate crackdown on Sunday on agents engaged in people smuggling, saying they would be severely punished.
Away from that, Tunisia protesters demand release of political prisoners. Now, hundreds of supporters of Tunisia's main opposition coalition have rallied to demand freedom of about 20 imprisoned opponents of President Kais Saied. Amid a heavy security deployment, the opposition coalition, under the name of the National Salvation Front, organized a vigil on Sunday in front of the Municipal Theatre in the center of the capital, Tunis. Up to 300 protesters, many carrying photographs of people they called political prisoners, gathered in defense of the former ministers, business figures and others held since February. Heading climate news, over 54% of European mayors who responded to a recent survey put climate action among their top 3 priorities for 2023, with many urging European Union parliamentarians for better dialogue and increased spending for a faster energy transition. The inaugural Eurocities Monitor survey sought to take the pulse of European mayors and uncover the major challenges, priorities and trends that shape urban affairs in 2023. It drew responses from about 43% of the mayors polled, and the majority of mayors in 92 large cities across the EU listed climate action as a top priority, reports Politico. Now, sustainable mobility ranked second, with almost a quarter of all mayors identifying transport as their top concern, and there is a recurrent focus on developing and expanding metro and tram lines, renewing green bus fleets, developing pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, and improving traffic management.
Well, it's Good Morning Uganda, still with you here on UBC TV. When we go for a break, we will return and continue with more discussions on what is happening around, but that will be in the newsreel. But for now, we'll also look at some of the big stories that you should be expecting in our dailies. Felix, what is the big story in the Daily Monitor?
Well, looking at the Daily Monitor, the big headline still, of course, does touch what we did talk about earlier, the sad news that we did before, that did befall us over the weekend. Now, Janet puts spin on ADF attack theory, and of course, they give you a breakdown of that and a couple of photos of the children or the people there who lost their lives in the Kasese attack. Now, Museveni wins battle against COVID-19, and the Justice Arach Amoko, you didn't know. Now, what causes broken blood vessels in one's eyes? And also, Uganda African leaders meet Putin over war.
We'll be looking at more papers coming in, of course, from all over the region as we go on. For now, we will go for the song of the day. It's a Monday. We need new energy and also to focus on different things at the start of this entire week. When we return, Newsreel will be up next. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
I had a chance to go outside with your other friends. I had a chance to tell mama that I could go with a sped. I had a chance to go to school, but had an all and dice. I had a chance to put another with my papas.
Welcome back from the weekend. Today being Monday, 19th of June 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Very happy to be here to start off the week with you. Well, it was a very dark weekend, especially for us here, after that story did break out in the whole country, where we did see a number of students. We are looking at about 41 students who were lost in an attack by ADF at that school in Kasese. Well, several reports have been released, but we know that preliminary investigations have been carried out, and we did see the Minister for Education, Honorable Janet Kataha, come out to give a statement. But not only her, even the head of state, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did release an official statement and broke the silence about this incident. Of course, he did come out to condemn it and really showed how much of a selfish interest the rebels did have at hand. But we also know that the investigations are still going on, and of course, as UBC, we continue to send our sincere condolences to all the families that did lose their sons and daughters in this very unfortunate occurrence. Of course, as the day goes by, definitely you'll be hearing more and more related on this story. Well, this morning, of course, I am joined by my fellow gentleman and lady, to take you through for the greatest part of this Monday morning, and also to give you quite a kickstart for the entire week. This morning, of course, Robert Nyonyintono joins me, Felix Nkunda, and Mollen, Kenyena. Mollen, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to our viewers out there. Well, it was quite a weekend, and like you started it off, still very sad about what happened right there in Kasese. And of course, you look at how the parents are grieving right now, and I think everyone who has kids in schools right now in that area is kind of worried, because we don't know that this situation has been, really figured out. But also, we have an assurance. The Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha, did come out yesterday to give a statement on the fact that, government will very soon be giving more details on that. But we want to, join the families and, ask them to be a bit calm. And of course, it's a sad time. You can't be calm at that moment. But we also do think that police and security organs will be on this to make sure that they're able to at least prevent more attacks like those. And the ADF have been really, I don't know, attacking that Western.
Welcome back from the weekend. Today being Monday, 19th of June 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Very happy to be here to start off the week with you. Well, it was a very dark weekend, especially for us here, after that story did break out in the whole country, where we did see a number of students. We are looking at about 41 students who were lost in an attack by ADF at that school in Kasese. Well, several reports have been released, but we know that preliminary investigations have been carried out, and we did see the Minister for Education, Honorable Janet Kataha, come out to give a statement. But not only her, even the head of state, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did release an official statement and broke the silence about this incident. Of course, he did come out to condemn it and really showed how much of a selfish interest the rebels did have at hand. But we also know that the investigations are still going on, and of course, as UBC, we continue to send our sincere condolences to all the families that did lose their sons and daughters in this very unfortunate occurrence. Of course, as the day goes by, definitely you'll be hearing more and more related on this story. Well, this morning, of course, I am joined by my fellow gentleman and lady, well, to take you through for the greatest part of this Monday morning and also to give you quite a kickstart for the entire week. This morning, of course, Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono joins me, Felix Nkunda and Mollen, Kenyena. Mollen, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers out there. Well, it was quite a weekend and like you started it off, still very sad about what happened right there in Kasese. And of course, you look at how the parents are grieving right now, and I think everyone who has kids in schools right now in that area is kind of worried because we don't know that this situation has been, really figured out. But also we have an assurance. The Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha, did come out yesterday to give a statement on the fact that government will very soon be giving more details on that. But we want to join the families and ask them to be a bit calm. And of course, it's a sad time. You can't be calm at that moment. But we also do think that police and security organs will be on this to make sure that they're able to at least prevent more attacks like those. And the ADF have been really I don't know, attacking that Western.
Welcome back from the weekend. Today being Monday, 19th of June 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Very happy to be here to start off the week with you. Well, it was a very dark weekend, especially for us here, after that story did break out in the whole country, where we did see a number of students. We are looking at about 41 students who were lost in an attack by ADF at that school in Kasese. Well, several reports have been released, but we know that preliminary investigations have been carried out, and we did see the Minister for Education, Honorable Janet Kataha, come out to give a statement. But not only her, even the head of state, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did release an official statement and broke the silence about this incident. Of course, the ADF attack that did happen there in Kasese. Where we did lose 41 people, most of which were students, and of course a few other adults. Well, we have a statement that came in from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, of course, talking about this very specific attack. And he had a couple of issues he wanted to line out and also highlight. And again, just to take you through a part of the statement that was issued yesterday on Sunday, June 18th, 2023. He did talk about this new atrocity by the elements of the ADF is a criminal, desperate, terrorist and futile. Now, since Operation Shuja started, the Congo Army and our army have put a lot of pressure on ADF, who had turned that area into their territory for almost 20 years. We have inflicted so much damage on these criminals. And he went ahead and just gave a rough sketch of the Rwenzori, that is north to south, looking at the occupancies and, of course, giving some more details. And just like anybody else, there's been quite a lot of alarm. Even the Pope, Pope Francis, did come out to condemn these attacks yesterday at the Vatican when he was leading Mass. We have seen also the Minister of Education, Honorable Janet Kataha, come out to talk about this. We did have statements that were released again by the UPDF spokesperson. So there is still a lot of information that is going to be coming out at you, because the ultimate goal is to find out the root cause of all this, and also what very many people would really love to know is how are we going to handle this. And are there any preventative measures that have been put into place to avoid future attacks by the said rebel? But also very important to understand and know what it is that we have been doing as a country from way back, because we know that there have been several directed efforts that have been towards that, especially coming in from the Ugandan side. But looking at all of this, Robert, I mean, how would an ordinary Ugandan try to understand what we are actually talking about? Because we are hearing ADF, Allied Defense Forces, we are hearing attacks, we are hearing Democratic Republic of Congo, we are hearing Bondwe boundaries. I mean, would we create a picture for an ordinary Ugandan to understand what actually is happening?
Well, for many people, when you talk about the ADF, this rebel group has been around for some time. Over 30 years. It was being headed by Jamiru Mukulu, who is currently detained and under trial. But in 2015, Musa Sheikh Baluk took over Jamiru Mukulu in command of the ADF. Now, this is a rebel group. Since 1986 and even before, our government has had a number of rebel groups. And they have managed to defeat several of them. Famous among them is Alice Lakwena. If those remember her movement, then we had the Lord's Resistance Army, we had the likes of Itongwa, so many we can mention. Now, this is a rebel group that operates in Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. However, they use Democratic Republic of Congo as their base of operation. That's why we even saw recently our government saying, let's go in again and hunt for these people. Now, the uniqueness, or what makes ADF unique amongst other rebel groups that we've been able to fight, is it has a connection to a faith. It is a radical Muslim movement.
Hello everyone.
That is why, for you to be a member of the ADF, if you were Felix Nkunda or Kirabo Robert, you have to change your name and adopt or take over an Islamic name. Talk about Jamiru Mukulu, he was a Catholic. Talk about Musa Sheikh Baruku, and all you get, they are radical Muslims. Now, sources also tell us that over time, the ADF has been able to get connections with other terrorist groups. It's connected to Al-Shabaab, and they tell us it's also getting connections to other rebel groups after a long time of communication or being in this area. And if you remember very well, when we were hit, the twin bombings that happened at Parliamentary Avenue and one at CPS, when the army spokesperson, they were trying to tell us more about what ADF is. They said these sophisticated bombs they are using have a connection with a bigger terror group. Now, it has been able to thrive because it has hidden away from direct combat with the forces for a long time. Yes, we know our brothers, Democratic Republic of Congo, has its own challenges. We know its geographical location, the huge forest it has. So ADF has taken advantage of these big and of course some of challenges in leadership in our neighboring country to harbor and take possession. But recently, when we saw our army following these bombings enter DRC Congo to hunt for them, like His Excellency said in his statement, and gave what they have been able to capture, how they have been able to disarm, capture some, kill a number, remove a number of their bases, and this may be in retaliation. However, away from only religion, you know, one wise man once said that there is nothing as dangerous as a person who becomes a radical or an extremist in any faith.
Yes.
That's why even in other faiths you see cults happen. When something has an attachment to faith and people are indoctrinated to believe that what they are doing is right despite being wrong. That is a big challenge. But also for this particular area, why we find that sometimes ADF still takes over is because, you see, Ugandans, the white man, when he came in, he demarcated us. You'll find that some tribes you have in Uganda, other tribes you have in other parts. You find that some of the people, it's just crossing a border. Now, Philo, someone is taken from Uganda, recruited, trained, but they can come because they belong and enter, mobilize, do what they can do, then go out or even camouflage within the what? The community.
Yes.
Because this school, for example, it's at the border, where it's sometimes our borders, we don't want to say that they are not safe, but sometimes it is very possible because these people don't look strange to the people that they are coming to harm. If we are all the same people that we just cross to the other side.
Yes.
So even when I come back, I'll be like I've come home to my people, and they may hardly think I'm going to harm them, hurt them, yet we are mobilizing. So this is a group, a rebel group, that has fought in the areas of Congo. They have done some havoc, and in Uganda they keep on crossing, and many people tell you it is responsible for a number of attacks, because most of the incidents that have happened, even the killing of Islamic sheikhs, if you remember that rampant shooting of sheikhs, all these, actually most of the shooting that are happening today have a connection, leave alone the attacks in huge numbers, but they believe there are some cells that are connected to ADF that are causing this havoc.
Okay. Now, there's been quite also conversations about maybe this highlighting, and I mean, this is what I would love to know. Could this have been an avoidable circumstance? Because I did see a couple of people talking about maybe this talks about security agencies, rather gaps in the security that we have. Because when you look at the school and its location, we do understand that there are also barracks around it. So there was a question of, could this be highlighting gaps in security? Or could this actually have been unavoidable whether we wanted or not, security or with no security?
Philomena, it's a hard one to tell, honestly and truly, knowing I'm in an amateur way how such groups operate. You know, you can't blame the security institutions, you can't blame the community. That then would make us think that the people who make such attacks, also they prepare, by the way. They plan. This was not probably they have planned for it for about even a year. How do you know? So they would of course study patterns of how security institutions work and all these kind of things. That then in its own self wouldn't necessarily, actually it would be unfair for us to start saying the security agencies or these people or what. I think the only regret we carry today is that we live in a country or a world where there's consistent clash in terms of people or individual desires. And individuals are willing to execute that to the latter at any cost. That should be the biggest disgrace we struggle with as a country. We have seen attacks, terrorist attacks internationally, and I can give, if you're keen to note what's happening in Nigeria, consistently, you've seen, go to Niger, same group of guys. When you go far to the United States of America, if you've been seeing, for example, some of them allegations about the Twin Tower and many other bombings, you've seen some of these even in the Middle East. A terrorist is a terrorist, and that's the best definition you can give them. And they do what they do in relation to what they believe in. Robert here said that the biggest challenge you also struggle with is the affiliation of terrorism to religion. It becomes hard to crack because it is sometimes it is hard to prove. Because in Kampala, when they arrest some Muslim individuals, the Muslims will come out and, people. But the biggest challenge, you're dealing with a mixed approach when it comes to in ADF in particular. Kasese being a borderline district, and so it is prone for much attacks like this, like you've seen in other even parts of the country. Remember the issue in Kisoro where you see the spillover from Congo.
Yes.
Much more is evidenced by the increased number of refugees also. If you listen to what's been happening in Congo itself, inside just the border. These stories we hear every day, but because they have not been close to us, we tend not to give much attention. But now it's in our own sitting room. But the big question, Philomena, is how do we do away with this nightmare? Uganda is spending a lot of money in trying to do away with the ADF in Congo. His Excellency has time and again said it, that they're trying to not to have this battle on the Ugandan soil. We can't be waiting for this people to first come, then we can. How about we go and find them wherever they are? Clearly, there's much that has been done with this operation, Shuja, so they call it. But now with what's happening, maybe there's also much that needs to be done. If we have Robert and Philo, if we have this before our eyes, we don't know where next. The videos we see trending over social media, this is not the country we would want to live in. This is not the reason the NRA went and did whatever they did for that long. This is something so different from what actually we believe in as a country. And honestly, on a day like this, I would imagine that we'd put our voices together to see how we can support the Uganda People's Defense Forces to take charge of that region. We would together as a country. Sadly, as Robert did put it, we have an intertwinement of religion. We don't want to make it look like we are attacking. That's why some comments even we hold ourselves back, even in such a conversation, not to put them there. Because clearly, as a matter of fact, not every person in that religion believes in this kind of nonsense.
These are radicals.
But even the radical ones, being radical in the religion doesn't call for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Extremists.
These
that
are
would
the
be qualified.
Yes.
Yes. And these are not only here. We have seen them in a couple of countries where they belong and what they are doing. So we must also tread carefully, not to let our own cast and abuse to a particular religion. Because clearly that religion does not entirely subscribe to such acts.
They don't exactly
that's the
encourage
challenge.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have seen very many arrests of these ADFs in Uganda. Among people, and that's one of the challenges today, that this rebel group has infiltrated civilians. When they arrest them, they get them from localities. They got some in Matuga, they got some, I think, in Namuwongo here. They have been arresting people. They have been telling us these are ADFs. So they are already among, they have infiltrated people's society. So we must be careful. But for me, also something that when you do this story, you must look at how informed are the local communities about terrorism? What are the protective measures that the local individuals have put in place in regard to terrorism, to avert terrorism? What are the communication channels to avert terrorism? Okay? How informed are Ugandans about the threat of terrorism? Is it a subject we have left for the armed forces, for the government officials, for the high people? Do we not
know much or enough to actually know what exactly would be happening, what would consider? Yes.
How are we interested? Because these people probably have been coming around these schools. You never know. Maybe.
And I think, Felix, when you bring that out, the biggest challenge with ADF fighting it is, and the president mentioned that they had focused more on their camps and the groups where they were gathering so much. Because before Operation Suja, these people would group, even had camps, big camps. So he said that focus more on how do they ensure that they use weapons, both air and land, to ensure they destroy these camps completely, which they have managed to do in a number of areas. But said there's like on these small groupings. And he mentioned incidents where some had tried to cross, and I think there were a group of about 51 who crossed. But now the biggest challenge is what Felix has brought out, that because this is at the border, rebels who come, hit and go back into hiding are very different from those that come and you know they are fighting out till the end. So what they do, or the biggest challenge is they come in communities. They will cross because if the Ugandans say they will come, cross after mobilizing, then they cause havoc within, either run back or some that look at gaps in security stay. So these small groupings are now the challenge. That's why they will come and arrest someone in Katoke with explosives, with all these vest bombs and everything. Now, when they give you history of this person, they will tell you he left Uganda on such a date, he has been in the forests of Congo, crossed back into Uganda, because he's a Ugandan. He's not a stranger that maybe he's a Congolese. He's just like you and me. He crosses properly, comes in, does his mission, then disappears, goes back. So that is the biggest change. I think where now communities must be very vigilant. That how do you, because what I saw yesterday was people trying to find out who are you, how did you come here, but these are things we should do on a daily basis.
Yes.
We should bring back systems that we had before. Yes, people will argue that population has increased, but even for remote areas like Kasese, who is this person? There was a time we had what they called neighborhood watch, and they had brought in a system called Mayumba Kumi. I think it was just being brought in, but it was there before. I stand to be corrected by my brother here, but I had heard of Mayumba Kumi before. That every 10 homesteads, let's have one leader and a committee to know for these particular 10 homesteads, who are the people you're having? Before the LC committee, who are the people you're having? Who is this stranger? Because it is now that we are seeing certain people being arrested and said these are ruminants of ADF, these, but how come these people were in these communities? I think over a time we've gone to, for me and my family, yet we are forgetting a very important thing, that the eye is the best weapon in fighting terrorism. The eye, what you see and you report, either explosives, either people within these communities, that you'll wonder. But Philo has disappeared for 4 years. We don't know where Philo has been. Philo has come back with
all of a
friends.
sudden, and yes,
With two
they're
friends.
making reappearances.
They are renting some room. During the day they are sleeping. At night they are nowhere. We see them bring sacks entering and all this. Why is this vigilance? Because much as the UPDF has intelligence, and His Excellency said he's wondering, how did the Ugandan intelligence on the other side fail to get to know about this? But what if these people mobilized within? You know? So, security can do so much, but if the community is not vigilant, then security may fail. Because even intelligence is collected from the community. You may, from the community, that it's us who will notice, and then maybe I tell a Felix who will tell someone that, but you see, around, we see these people, they disappeared, they are young men, they seem to have guests, then they are here for 2 months, then they go, then they come back. We see them behaving in a queer manner, things we don't understand. That is the only way, because if communities are not responsible, and this does not only go to the people of Kasese. Yes, Kasese is more prone because it's at the border.
Yes.
But CPS was not in Kasese. The Parliamentary Avenue was not in Kasese.
I mean, this is in the heart of Kampala.
But
yes.
what hurts is we've talked about this, but every day we don't see that the public has come to accept that this group is within us At any time, if you do not take it as an issue, they can hit any installation, they can hit any community if you are not very responsible and vigilant.
Well, there is a couple of things or a couple of thoughts are being shared here by a couple of people talking about this is Sam saying it's a militia group trained to instill fear in people and create insecurity in our communities. The question is, how do you help yourself as a community? How do you help yourself as a community to ensure that you are very alert? There is Yambaba Ali saying, I think almost every African country has a rebel group trying to destabilize it. The major question here should be, what are the aims of these rebel groups? And also the worst part of it is all that in several countries where these rebel groups have been able to capture power, there is absolutely no peace. So how do we help ourselves as a country to ensure we don't see this happening again? And there is Cohen here saying that how does UPDF respond to this, and exactly what could be their plan to ensure that this again doesn't happen? I mean, he's trying to see if the question should be going to UPDF, or is it UPDF that is supposed to be addressing this, or could this be actually a matter that is supposed to be dealt with different people? But again, UPDF also has quite a role to play. We know that they are doing something.
They promised us, they said they were pursuing this group.
Yes.
I think the commandant of that area assured the public through various media outlets that they were trying to see if they can catch up with this group. They are pursuing them. We'll wait and see if that will bring, if it will be successful, because there are also reports that there were some who were abducted.
Yes.
So if they're pursuing them, maybe those abducted will be recovered, and we hope and pray for that.
Well, Chigwe Livingstone from Lueza Kajansi saying it was really very unfortunate for the country, for the great loss, especially for our brothers and sisters in Kasese. Let the government security operations take initiatives to find the culprits in the matter. And he talks about how he's heard about the wrangles, conflict of interest about the school ownership between the community and the NGO. Again, this was information that was provided preliminarily by the Minister of Education, that is Honorable Janet Kataha, when she was talking about some of the things that were presented to her, some of the reasons that were surrounding the circumstance. But she said this was not the final information, more reports and
just a clue.
Yes, it's just to try and understand better what could have been the issue. So there is another viewer here who says the school attack in Kasese was very unfortunate, but the question here is, where is our intelligence? Where are our intelligence agencies, the GISOs, the DISOs, the crime intelligence, the CID, and the military intelligence? Name them, because the security structures are on ground, and normally the border areas are supposed to be on alert. Recently, talking about police which was disarmed in Malaba and shops robbed as early as 7 p.m. And she says, he asks, the security structures in our country should be awakened up to be alert. This is Oputo George saying, what have we done to ensure the alertness of all the security agencies we have in the country?
Now that is a point, but
yes.
Even Felix, just to give an example here. I don't remember how old you were, Philo, when you had that twin.
How could you remember?
Like you grew up with her, but I hope she can recall. Just for
probably I don't remember how old I was.
Yeah,
I could have been pretty much
and I
young.
can't guess how old Uncle Felix was.
What are you talking about? What's the point?
I know our viewers, Mary, when the Twin Towers were bombed, many people questioned when the Twin Towers, yes.
September 11th, 2002,
I think.
2 years, I think, yeah.
Many people questioned, where was the American intelligence? You know, how did Bin Laden, that's what we're talking. How did Bin Laden organize? How did their radars see these planes? How couldn't even the best of intelligence system, criminals can at one point identify gaps and use them?
You know, one thing I said earlier, Robert, in addition to that, terrorism, the reason why it's called terrorism is because it's an investment for the terrorists.
Yes.
So just as you invest in avoiding it to happen, someone is investing to make sure it actually happens. And that's why I told you, if you remember the preamble of my discussion, it is not fair for us to cast blame at this point. I think we just have to pick up the pieces, console our loved ones who lost their people, and make sure this never happens again. We have been at this before. Actually, I'll tell you without fear of contradiction that Uganda is one of those countries that has done so much to prevent and avoid terrorism incidents in this country. With our presence in countries like Somalia, with our presence in countries like Congo, Sudan, anywhere, we are so prone for attacks. Probably if not the effort of the coercive forces would have been hurt or even matched, the gravity of the shock of terrorism would have been bigger than what we see. Not that this is small. Not that this is small. But I think it is no point for
There's
us
so
to
much
start.
that we've been able to avert.
I can tell you without fear of contradiction, without fear of the same. But I know that we need still to do a lot. We can't be losing any Ugandans at this point for such easy, lucrative approaches to security. You know, now we know the enemy is alive, and the enemy is actually very much intentional. What do we do? I had the commander of Operation Shuja. I think he visited the site. I saw him make a discussion to the local people and the officers there, trying to give them confidence that this that has happened, don't heed back.
Because there was panic within the area. Some people were
Definitely.
even leaving their homes.
Not some, they have left. Many people have deserted
Yes.
Kasese. But sadly, that at the return of their king, look
Then
what
this
is happening.
happens.
We talk about this story with pain. I must also add that. We say these things with pain, but we also say them with confidence that we shall win. As a country, we shall win the acts of terrorism. The government is quite sober in that area. At least we can qualify that amidst every other challenge. But in terms of security, the government and the institutions are very much sober. So we can add our voices to His Excellency in a memo he sent the country, building confidence that we shall topple these people.
We've been here.
We have done it before.
And we have been
This is
able to
not new.
defeat.
But
In as
also
much
we
as it
must-
is very unfortunate, definitely
doubt.
there is
There is no
nobody
doubt.
who, yeah.
No doubt. But Philo, one thing I must cause emphasis is what he has said, what I said earlier. Let's talk about vigilance. Tell me you, trust me, the people who carry out these attacks, they have wives, they have friends in communities, they have someone who knows about, who either questions what they do or someone, but we have not made the public very much or able, and this is a general problem. Let's not talk about even in regards to terrorism only. Like in the localities, how many times do we individuals interest ourselves in matters of the neighbors? We have gotten to a point where we are comfortable in our own driving seat. As long as my people are in-house, Mungale will close the gate, and that's it. You know? Like, even when you hear someone screaming the next fence, like these cases of domestic violence you've had, these people who murder, after the murder you see people come and say, we've had people fight. What did you do? Secondly, the reporting systems in security are equally not doing justice. Today when you call 911, what answers on the other side?
And
911, well,
and Felix, sorry to interject, but you've mentioned something that has sparked off my mind as far as reporting mechanisms of police are concerned. There was one time at the shootings when His Excellency came up and talked about cameras, talked about local defense unit, and talked about a standby force at police stations. But allow me to take this opportunity to ask His Excellency that some of these need to be reviewed. There are many times when we've had challenges in communities where I am, and as one of the local leaders, you rush to this police and you're looking for that standby team, he said, has to be at a police station. And I can tell you, you find none. You find none completely. It is very late. You've come out saying, let's rush and get assistance from police. Some are sleeping in cars that have been parked there for a long time. Others have to call some on duty. And there is so much in terms of vigilance. Allow me also say this, Your Excellency, that issues of corruption and avenues of looking for money must also be revised. You're going to go to a police post. When people who got mobile motorcycles to patrol are looking for who to arrest and get money from, they are not there. That's why I saw some female member of parliament in Kasese, a woman member of parliament, questioning, saying some of the things, and she was like, but look, even here, there's this, even there. But it seems some, not all, but some members have gone away from their mission and purpose to extortion and looking for money. And they are failing to perform where they should be performing. Because even when you talk about vigilance, people are going to be demoralized if the channels that are put there for them to run to as rescue are either not functional or not in existence.
Well, we of course still await more investigations as they are still being done. Like I did promise, we'll be getting more information regarding this attack as the day goes by and the week goes by. But the whole issue here is that we have to stay vigilant and of course continue sympathizing with the families that lost their loved ones and pray that this doesn't actually happen again. But looking at the dailies this morning from the Citizen coming in from Tanzania there, what the budget means for tourism, aviation and recovery. They're giving you a breakdown of the monies that are going to be invested in several sectors. Government seeks $260 million US green financing for 6th phase of BRT. And the ESC budget insufficient, says lawmakers. And finally, fear, grief after 41 killed in Uganda school attack. And moving on to the Daily Nation, NHIF heist, rogue hospitals exposed. This one is a scandal. Of course, those targeted were picked at medical camps that have to have up-to-date NHIF cards. And anxious wait for news after 41 die in Uganda school raid. And motorsport meets athletics as Rally Ace visits Kipchoge. And still looking at past finance bill to allow me fix Uhuru economic mess. Ruto urges members of parliament. And of course, still giving you quite a breakdown of all of that, what could be in this finance bill. So go ahead, get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, get yourself a copy of the New Vision, get yourself a copy of the Daily Nation and the Citizen to catch up on all these stories and much, much more. Good morning, Uganda. We'll return shortly after the break, of course, with Mollen giving you more on weather and climate and also giving you an outlook on our roads today in the traffic updates. Good morning, Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real.
Still, I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. His reason is to be the GOAT. The reason to imagine is to take the beat and make it lit. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwago Complex Suta, UG's Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Nida. Yes, very good morning. Right now we will be looking at our roads this morning to see how the traffic situation looks like. But some of the roads that usually are connecting into the city center, that's where we normally have the traffic. And we're looking at the Kampala Jinja Road this morning, much of it also connecting as you move from the areas of Nakawa into town. You just have a few areas where you have intense traffic, that is especially as you're connecting from the upper side of Wampeo Avenue, also from the main highway from Nakawa side, but also the old Port Bay Road. That junction right there is where we have a little bit of traffic. But away from that, we're also looking at some of the roads that are joining in from old Port Bay Road, and that is where we have a bit of traffic connecting into town. But away from that, we'll also be looking at the weather update for this morning. We'll be looking at the forecast that is coming in this morning from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Look at what we're expecting for today, and of course in terms of temperatures as well. But also tapping in from our satellites, we've seen a lot of cloudy weather developing. That is for most areas within the southern half of the country this morning, and much of that has continued throughout the western sector as well. That is where we've had more clouds this morning. We do expect that some of those areas that started off earlier with rain rains. We're looking at most, especially the midwestern part of the country. Across Fort Portal, we did have a few rains developing over there this morning, but it looks like much of that is starting to clear away. And of course, later on in the day, we might be looking at more rains developing for the western part of the country. Also, we have a reduction across eastern Uganda and much of the Karamoja region that has been attributed to the low pressure systems that are developing over the Indian Ocean. Now, that means that whenever we have those low pressure systems over there, then we're looking at most of the moist winds that would now be coming towards our country going to the low pressure system. So that automatically causes a reduction in rains for the eastern part of the country, and that's what has been happening in the last couple of days with the tropical cyclone that developed over India, quite a dangerous one that even destroyed a lot of property and a lot of people that were affected by that tropical cyclone that is over the western part of India. Now that has started to dissipate, but then again we have more systems that are developing for this time of the year. Usually they're expected. So whenever those are happening again, we'll be seeing a reduction in rains that is for the eastern part of the country. Now also, at the same time, it's not all that bad because again we have local effects. We have most of the rains that usually are influenced by Lake Victoria. That is where we usually see most of the areas within the Lake Victoria Basin again experiencing much more wet weather activities, especially during morning hours, and see a few rains come through later tonight. Again, the ones that we saw even coming into this morning across the Lake Victoria Basin. But looking at the forecast this morning coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, we are forecasting isolated showers. That is for the central part of Lake Victoria Basin. Also, that will be coming in later on in the day with temperatures starting at 26 degrees. And we're looking at, that is the Elgon area, Mbale, Bududa, Boko and Sironko. We're forecasting sunny intervals. That is starting off at 25 degrees Celsius. That will be across several places. Now, also looking at the eastern side of, that is central, we're looking at Wobulenzi, Ruwero, Bururi and Nakaseke. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning, quite a hot one. Temperatures will be starting at 28 degrees. Well, we're looking at also the eastern part of the country. That is where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria and Kumi. We are forecasting also a mix of clouds and sunshine, quite a hot one as well. Temperatures will be going up to, that is 27 degrees centigrade. And of course, we do expect that most of that will continue into the day with mostly sunny intervals. And across the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're likely to have those rains also kick in this morning. That will be coming in a little bit later on. Temperatures will be at 27 degrees. We do expect that that system will continue into the afternoon, where we'll be looking at more rains again for that area. Also, we're looking at more of a sunny morning forecast for southwestern Uganda. We're looking at much of that starting off at a chilly 26 degrees centigrade, and also most of that will be developing into rains that will be later on in the afternoon. And also for the western parts of Lake Victoria, Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, we do have clouds that are starting to develop over the area. We do expect that that will be bringing in rains later on in the day, and starting off quite warm at 27 degrees. Well, the central parts of northern Uganda, a mix of clouds and sunshine. That is forecast for the areas of Adjumani, Gudu, Kitgum and Badel. Quite a hot morning starting off at 28 degrees. And also looking at the satellite this morning, we're seeing more of the cloudy weather developing for the western sector, and of course most of that still over the islands of Lake Victoria. The expectation is that most of those systems actually developing over the islands, those indicated by the dark red colors right there on the map, that is a system that will be moving on land that is towards the western part of Lake Victoria and central. So that is where we'll be getting the rains for this morning, and also much of the clouds actually having a westerly movement. That is where we can expect that we'll be getting much more of those rains. But speaking of rains, we did have a heavy downpour that is across Brazil that is coming into today over the weekend, and much of that did cause a lot of destruction. And of course that is also coming from the tropical cyclone that developed over the area that is the northeastern part of Brazil. Looking at more of that did affect villages over the area. So far 11 people have been reported dead from the effect of the tropical cyclone, and a lot of victims still to be accounted for. The numbers are not yet confirmed from that is the previous one that was confirmed earlier on Sunday about that is about the 11 people that died from the effects of this cyclone. A lot of heavy downpour across the area, a lot of homes that are still buried out there, and of course southern Brazil as well has been the one that has been most affected. 20 people reported missing, that is in the southern Brazil, and of course this is also from the report that came yesterday from Sao Paulo, indicating that we could be looking at more destruction, as this is the first time that they are seeing much more intense rains for this month. And also the southern state of Rio Grande did also report dangerous effects from this, whereby numbers are also not yet confirmed, but rescue operations are still on ground to ascertain the extent of the damage coming from some of these areas that were affected by the cyclone. Now, also most of this has been linked to climate change. We're seeing more of those frequent tropical cyclones developing over areas, and of course that is where there is a challenge even right now as we talk about extreme weather events. But then again, it's not just floods. We're also looking at the extent of drought. Yesterday there is a report that came out from The Guardian looking at the next pandemic could be drought, and obviously what is bringing what they are highlighting is the areas that have been experiencing a drought in the last 5 to 10 years, including the fact that they have also made a projection on what could happen in the next 25 years if you look at how a drought has been affecting our country, most areas within the world as well. What we're seeing, the image on the map actually right there, that is a drought incident in Karamoja, and of course that is the area that has been worst hit when it comes to drought here in Uganda. But also for the Greater Horn of Africa, we have seen more extremes for Somalia and Ethiopia. And also now from this report, they're highlighting some parts of the world that have had to deal with similar incidents, and that's parts of England as well that have been dealing with lack of water, also for areas that have had to actually go on and introduce irrigation schemes, but that has not worked because they're still looking at an extended period where we might be dealing with drought. Again, London was put across among the areas that have been most affected by the drought crisis. The Greater Horn of Africa, parts of Italy that have also had to deal with this. We're looking at also parts of India that had also a lot of drought scenarios, Australia, and recently also talking about, hinting on the fact that if the El Nino phase that was announced earlier by the World Meteorological Organization were to go on, we could be looking at more cases from areas of that is Australia, but also most of that could be affecting most areas within the country, within the world, where we're looking at more of the El Nino scenarios likely to develop this year. And again, Australia has been one of those areas that were highlighted to having had worst case scenarios when it comes to drought cases. But you can imagine also for Africa, the places where this has been highlighted, Mozambique itself, we're looking at more of that coming through. Madagascar, these areas that have had to deal with a lot of drought scenarios. Now, if you're to talk about an increase in all these links related to climate change, in a world where we're talking about more warming trends, then we could be looking at worst case scenarios, and obviously that sparks attention on what we can do in terms of action to minimize the damage. We'll leave it at that this morning. We'll be having Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming in right after this, and then I'll be coming in later on to give you more on sports highlights. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwego Complex Suta, UG's Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. His reason is to be the GOAT. The reason to imagine is to take the beat and make it lit. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
Uganda is rich in natural resources and hard-working people. But to turn these resources into real progress and development, we need to invest in our infrastructure, education, and healthcare. That's where taxes come in. When we pay our taxes, we are investing in our country's future. We are supporting the schools that educate our children, the hospitals that care for our families, and the roads and bridges that connect our communities. And when businesses pay their taxes, they are contributing to the growth and development of Uganda's economy. They are helping to build a stronger, more prosperous nation for us all. So when you pay your taxes, you are investing in the future of Uganda and supporting the progress and development of our nation. Uganda is because of you.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran it to Western, we ran it to Northern, we ran, then you come.
Isn't that an achievement?
objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are counting,
Don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is,
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy.
We are several nations put it together.
Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails? I'm happy and he's a good lawyer because Amin is not in power.
The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief, that the beneficiary is doing.
So we look at expenditure, we don't look at revenue, and that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. This week on UBC. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the agenda session here on UBC TV. My name is Philomena. 4 minutes past 8 a.m. Monday, 19th of June 2023. Well, this morning's discussion you could call it a continuation of some of the things we were talking about last week. And last week, one of the major highlights was the reading of the national budget for the financial year 2023-2024 for Uganda's economy. We did see Honorable Minister Matia Kasaija come out to read to us when it comes to the national budget, which right now we know that stands at 52.7 trillion Ugandan shillings. And we know that there's several breakdowns. We did take a look at some of the priority areas where the ministry believed that we need to actually invest the monies in. But we also know that we also have other crucial areas like servicing our debt budget, where definitely we saw about 17 trillion Uganda shillings that are planned to be put in that very specific docket. Yes, definitely, this is a budget that we believe, and very many experts have come out to believe that it responds to some of the needs of an ordinary Ugandan. And again, we're taking you through how an ordinary Ugandan could benefit from this budget. Is this the kind of budget that we need? But today, we want to look at another category of people, okay? And that is the business community here in Uganda. Of course, you can't talk about the national budget and you fail to talk about the business people, the business community, because they do have quite a very evidential role that they play and contribute. Now, we would love to know how this affects them. And this morning, I am very happy to be sharing this platform with our special guest, that is Stephen Sebugwao. Now, Stephen Sebugwao is the Deputy CEO from Kasita. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very happy to have you here. Well, in this discussion, of course, you will be expecting conversations revolving around digitalization, youth, and of course, looking at export promotion, all of these things that really have an upper hand when it comes to the business community. And again, I do encourage you to go ahead and let us know how you feel, or you go ahead and react towards the budget, and also correlating it to the business community, how you feel the business community is going to benefit from this, if it's actually going to benefit, or there is quite a lot of pressure that is going to be exerted on them by this specific budget. And as always, our social media platforms are always open to let us know, share your 2 cents with us. Get onto Twitter, hashtag UBCGMU. And also, you could use our WhatsApp platform, which is open, 0709-602-592. Let us know how you feel about this. Well, Stephen, before we even start breaking it down, how do you feel about this budget, generally, as an individual?
Okay, thank you, Philomena. And thank you for giving us this platform to explain how this is affecting the traders, and also probably the entire ecosystem, because it's a closed loop. It comes from the manufacturing, the traders, then the consumers as well. This budget, in my opinion, it has some positives and it has some negatives. If I focus on the arena of the traders, I can say that trying to help boost exports for us is a plus, because we also want to kind of stimulate our economy right here, also utilize our massive population and the productivity, of course, plus the industrialization.
Yes.
Because why are we giving revenue to foreigners when our own people also
need it?
Yes.
Yes.
But we also have some negatives in there that I would say there were things like the recovery fund, which ideally was supposed to be helping the traders, but we've seen very little effect in that regard. And we feel that perhaps it was in the distribution mechanism, perhaps it was in the monitoring, perhaps it was basically in the whole setup of disbursement that we saw. So definitely that's a very key area that we'll probably expound on at some point. And I also saw that they have done something in the digitalization era. Of course, COVID has showed us that we have to look at other means of doing business.
Yes.
And again, as Casita, we are trying to promote digitalization for our traders, and also kind of come up with a platform that they can use to trade, so that if for some ever reason they are not into physical locations, they can still be able to do business, and there is continuity. And I'm also happy that they have done something towards the youth end. I think they budgeted around 60 billion for sensitization and skilling.
Yes.
Then there is some bit of a myoga in there.
There is the parish development model.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I'm saying that all these things, they are positives really, but now what we need is how to actualize these initiatives so that we can have a massive and wide-field impact of how these trickle down to the grassroots people, and of course the traders as well.
Okay.
So
I see you're pointing out the good ones, the strength, but now when we get to the weaknesses, do you feel there are certain areas they didn't prioritize or look at? Because at this point we really have very many priority areas. Everyone wants to front their, sectoral department. But do you believe there are certain other parts where they could have maybe allocated some more funds, especially to, boost business?
Yes. I definitely think that they should have allocated more funds again in some of the areas we've discussed. That is digitalization. I think they allocated 197 billion.
Yes.
To me, I feel like that is too small, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Let me paint for you a simple picture, and then maybe you can do the math with me, and you'd let me know if I'm on the right track, or perhaps my imagination
you're overly stretching it.
So you have about close to 50 million people right now, right? So let's just do a simple math and say that we need around 10,000 to sensitize people on this digitalization and to get them for that cultural transformation from the analog to digital. So if you say that you want to have a penetration of, let's say, even just 50%, that's about 25 million, right? If you multiply 25 million by 10,000, it comes to around 250 billion. Already even your 197 is nowhere close, and you're just doing sensitization, you're not doing anything else. So I feel like it's a good initiative, and I'm happy that this journey has begun and they have put some more emphasis than the previous budget, so that is a plus for me. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that that amount is actually quite little.
Okay.
So I also feel like the taxation area,
which I think is the biggest nightmare for every businessman and woman.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I also feel like they didn't do enough in that arena. They overstretched it. Of course, we know that the tax base at the moment is small.
Yes.
So the only way you're going to expand is by exerting more pressure, right? But
widen the tax bracket. Yes.
But so, I did not see something that talks about increasing the tax budget for, let's say, the informal sector. Instead, I'm seeing more taxes being piled up for the already small community that is paying. I'll give you an example, and I'll relate it to the export arena, right? They put out a budget whereby there was 0% on raw materials, which for me is a good thing. Thank you so much, government. We appreciate that. Then they put out 25% for imported goods that cannot be manufactured locally.
Yes.
Obviously, it makes sense. Then they made an estimation of 35% for goods that are imported but can be locally manufactured. So clearly, the strategy is to promote domestic production, right? But those taxes are really still high, because if you do a deep dive, you realize that close to 70% of the consumables that we have are still imported, right? So when you put a high tax on importations, it means that you are going to eat into the profit chunk of the producers and even the importers. So if you want to build capacity, it means that you're reducing their capital to actually get production within our borders. So I feel like that area too was a good initiative, that they put the taxes based on where the priorities are. But I also think that they should have revised those numbers a bit at a lower end. So for me, when I look at it, I can say that those are some of the areas that I see we might have
still
really
thought about very
never looked at critically. But that said, as I would say earlier on, is that the budget is good. It's better than the one of last year. That one, whether people agree to it or not, it is just a fact. But I feel like there are some gaps in there. And today, I always tell people this, that I always like discussing solution-based discussions.
Yes.
Because everyone knows where the challenges are, okay?
Yes.
We know the recovery fund has enriched here. So today, we will touch base, but we'll also show you how CASITA and other organizations that have partnered with government can be able to come in and help galvanize and solve some of these problems.
Yeah, because I mean, someone will ask you, okay, government has done what it has done, but you as CASITA and other, private entities, what exactly have you done? But even before we get to that part, you did talk about the exports. Now, we know, again, in the speech, it was very much highlighted that we are exporting less than we are importing. And you talked about building capacity. Could you maybe paint a picture for someone when we talk about that? What exactly do we mean, especially coming in from the business point of view? How do we? Is it something that can be done entirely by the private sector, or is there support that is expected or should be expected from government? And how can that, in what way anyway, in what form does that support come when we are talking about building capacity to ensure that we are exporting more than we are importing?
Okay. So thank you for that. It's actually quite a key area. Philomena, let me paint for you a picture so that you see how the ripple effect is causing all of this. Let's look at a manufacturer, right? So you manufacture, then the retailers come and buy from you, then they distribute to the consumer, or last mile delivery, as some technocrats call it, right? Now, the retailer is suffering because his reserves were depleted in COVID, right? So he's not able to get as much as he was getting from you before, right? So what happens as you're a manufacturer? Two things happen. You say that I'm going to reduce production in order to meet my operational costs. So maybe where you're doing 2 shifts, you now say I'm going to do just the day shift and I leave the evening shift because it doesn't do what? It doesn't make sense for me to keep producing what people are not actually delivering, that are not coming to pick up. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to cut jobs. Number 2, you're also going to reduce on probably the salaries of the current employees because you have to make ends meet.
Yes.
Okay? So the ripple effect keeps happening. So the money that you could have been using to probably increase your production is not coming in because your cash flows are constrained, right? Now, this is where the recovery fund would come in. If this money was trickling down to the so-called retailers, it means that their capacity to purchase would have been increased, your capital would have been expanded, and you'd be able to produce more and probably speak about the issue of export imbalances. So you see how something small, like, okay, it's not small, but you see how the ripple effect of something like a recovery fund is tying into helping you build more capacity, helping you expand your production. And now, we as Kasita are saying, you know what, government are our partners, okay? And we want to help in this regard, but the traders are also our what? Our partners too, right?
Yes.
So, what if this fund was transferred to Kasita and also other people, because there are
other beneficiaries,
like UCA and the like. So it's not just that I know Kasita more, that's what I'm here to talk about. But the fact is, there are also other people who are doing what? Who need it. This would mean that we have the mechanism to distribute to these grassroots traders.
Yes.
Because we've embarked on a strategy of segmenting. We've embarked on a strategy of segmenting these traders into categories like SMEs and sectors which speak to some of the priority sectors we are looking at. Could be agriculture, could be distribution and the likes. And then we've also narrowed it down to other groups like the youth, the women, right?
Yes.
Now, how does this tie into the whole picture? You're talking about a parish development medal, and we know that the youth are now the biggest family heads, right? Are you seeing how one vertical is starting to speak to the adjacent verticals of the youth, and they're also speaking to the adjacent verticals of the women, because it's the women that are running the homes. So if your parish model is to work, you would again leverage on Kasita's platform. We have about 3.5 million traders. No one has that platform in the country apart from us. I think some others have about 100,000, 200,000 and the likes, but for you to get a massive impact, and we are spread into different regions. So you see, if you channel those resources, all those funds, they would actually be able to reach the people that really need it. We'll be able to boost the capital for the aggregators or the manufacturers. They'll be able to produce more, and then they'll be able to export more, because we're exporting surplus, isn't it? So if we look into that value chain and we close that loop, I truly believe that a lot of issues that are happening in the trade imbalances and even the revenues, to really speak about it, would be sorted with this small kind of solution.
Well, we're looking at the national budget for the financial year 2023-2024 and its impact, especially on the business community this morning. And I do have Stephen from Kasita taking me through some of these points of strengths and weaknesses, and probably where Kasita definitely is expected to pull in their effort and what exactly do they bring to the table. But before we get into all of that, I do have a couple of questions already coming in here. There is Georgia talking about if you're looking at Kasita, do you, somebody needs an explanation from you here to talk about the small and medium enterprises. Are they still part of something that you cover as Kasita? Can they register with Kasita? And do they have any contribution they bring when it comes to these specific topics? Well, I don't know if they're talking about if small, medium enterprises are something that you also look at as Kasita. I don't know, but probably we'll look into that much later on. But getting back to all of this, we did also talk about the youth that are also being, we want to believe that they're also going to be beneficiaries of this. But I want to understand, what exactly does the youth, and again this may come off as a generic question, but I have seen it being discussed over and over and we have failed to come to a very conclusive response. What contribution does the youth bring to the business community? How do they present themselves in this sphere of business?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Philomena. We all know that 70% of our population is by the youth, and we also know for a fact that a lot of production that is going on and a lot of businesses are being run by the youth because they are the ones who are energetic at the moment.
Yes.
The old guard is only having what you call aristocratic money to kind of fund, but the people who are actualizing,
you're not lying about that. Yes.
The people who are actualizing are the youth.
Yes.
That is why people like me are coming into Kasita now, because we are the people who can help move things along. So even just me being here is testament enough to show you what the youth bring to the table, right? So in that regard, you need to kind of build the capacity of the youth, which is why I said earlier on that I'm happy the government is looking at sensitizing the youth. I think there was a 60 billion budget, which I also still think is a bit small.
Yes.
But it's a start. You know, it's a start. And if we say that we are not pointing out the positives, I think we'll be doing a disservice to government. It's a start. But of course, we need more in this regard. Earlier on, I told you that we have a platform at Kasita, and we've segmented them into SMEs, which speaks to the other lady's question that do they still do SMEs?
Yes, the small
and
medium enterprises.
I mentioned that earlier on that we've segmented, and out of the 3.5, we have close to around 1.5 SMEs. So we definitely deal with SMEs, and we are very, very passionate about them. You can, of course, register membership going to any of our offices regionally, be it the north, the east, the west, even here in the central. Or you can even go to our website, Kasita, and then you get in touch and we are able to help you. So we definitely work in that arena. Now back to the youth question, because the SMEs came into that, but I just thought I would touch base on that as we discuss this.
Yes.
We've organized the youth into different groups because we've realized that we need to have what they call targeted approaches. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all. What may be good for the old guard may not necessarily be good for the youth. The old guard may want to spend time with my bazukulu and the likes. So it's the youth who are saying that this is now the time for us to actually make money as well, and also try to build the nation, but as well as make something for ourselves while we also go down into the grassroots as well and distribute some of this wealth into our families, of course also help ease trade and the likes. Now, as Kasita, we appreciate this and we see that it's a mode of first of all, transitioning the economy. And then the second bit is that most of our delivery and distribution mechanism is being handled by the youth, to be honest with you. They're the ones who are in transportation, they're the ones who are into agricultural value chain. again, you see how this vertical is touching into the agricultural arena, which is also a priority sector, right? So if you say that you want agriculture, especially exports, again, it's touching the next vertical of exports. You've seen the challenges that were happening in the Elegu, I think, the Southern Sudan, the maize and what the challenges, the aflatoxins and the likes. You've also seen, I think there was something to do with the rice issue in Tanzania and the likes. So if we want to solve that issue, we need to take it from the grassroots. And that is the youth who are doing the actual production. If I do not get the quality right from the garden, it's going to
sabotage everything, yes.
And the youth and the women are the ones who are playing in that arena. Now, as Kasita, again, I told you that today I'll be just discussing, I show you a problem, and then I give you a solution based on what Kasita is doing. We have aggregated the youth, like I told you earlier on, but we've also come up with an initiative called the Buntu Program. So the Buntu Program arranges the different agricultural producers within the different regions that Kasita is holding, and then we connect them to suppliers of quality seed, for starters. We connect them to suppliers of quality and international standards that are agreed for in export, be it the UE, be it the East African Community, for inputs like pesticides and the likes. So we believe that by tackling this from the grassroots, we'll be able to solve the bigger problem of the trade imbalances that are having rejected exports, but also ensuring that the quality that we are producing as Uganda is actually at par with the international standards and as per the agreed trade agreements that we signed with the different communities. So you see how the youth are coming into play again?
Yes.
So they play a very big deal. They play in the trade of distribution, they also play in the trade of agriculture, and all these things are speaking to the actual main vertical of exports and industrialization and, of course, transformation, as I said earlier on.
Okay. Now, getting to the issue of taxation, again, earlier on we had talked about how I mean, there is no business person who really feels happy about this, but it's the reality of the matter. We have to deal with it. Taxation, several taxes have been imposed onto the business community. Now, what I really want to know from you, again, the pressure that is exerted on all these business communities from the taxman, we want to know how does it kill a business right from the word go till the end, if you can create a picture. Because the other day we were discussing and we're looking at how very many businesses downtown have closed. Several reasons will be given to you, but at least we know one of the main reasons is taxation. The taxes have become very, very crazy. Now, you who deals with the business people, could you create for us a picture or paint a picture on how this pressure affects them and why exactly it affects them?
Okay. It's a compounding effect. It's not just taxes, but it's also loans. But earlier on I told you that what fuels the business are profits, because you're going to get profits, you're going to reinvest, you're going to expand, right? So when you come in with high taxes, it means that you're reducing on my profit margins, right?
Yes.
I'm not able to pay my debts easily. I have to look for cheaper ways to get goods. That is now where I start looking for arenas of how do I dodge the taxman, how do I do that? You get that? So
there has to be an informal alternative for me.
So at the end of the day, this effect is right from the high taxes you're having. So the taxes actually are having a negative impact. They are looking for people to have alternative sources. I could give you so many, but I'm not here to tell you that these ones they use here, they use a porous here, they use, no, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm just simply here to tell you that those taxes have made people look to alternative means. And that is why we have gotten bigger issues like counterfeits entering the country. This is a very big area. And it's a very, very huge problem for the traders.
How does that work out, the counterfeit products and the taxation?
I'll tell you why. An original product has a tax, and because it is traded from a known source, there is no way you're going to avoid that tax. It has to be taxed, and whenever it comes into the country, the taxman will get something from it. A fake good is going to use some porouses in the border to somehow get to you, okay?
Yes.
And therefore, it's not going to be doing what? Paying taxes. That is why fakes are always cheaper than originals. It's just simple. It's just simple economics, right? So how does this now compound the problem? The guys who are selling the fake products are eating into the market share of the people who are selling the original products, who are actually paying taxes.
Yes.
So when you come and you tell me that you want to get taxes, I'll tell you I don't have them. So the only thing I can now do is either you help me recover with the fund which we talked about, or if not, I close shop and go and do something else. You get that? So that is why we are having a lot of these business closures. It's not really the big guys who are closing, it's the small guys, because they are being suffocated by these fake guys who are coming in with the low cost because they are evading taxes. So the taxman is not getting taxes. Even the base that he could have been using has also vanished. They have closed business.
Yes.
And that is why our tax targets are always falling below. So we as Kasita, we said that, you know what, let's stop thinking at this lower level. Let's look at the much higher level. How do we tackle the issue of fakes in order to close that loop and the taxman gets, the sellers also stay in business and everyone gets a fair chance at the market what? At the market share, right? We have a program that we call Original Trader we've begun. And this program is going to be cutting across verticals like electronics. It's going to be cutting across verticals like agriculture. I mentioned something earlier on, looking at original seeds and the likes. It actually falls into that bracket, yes. But now let's look at things like electronics. Let's say things like phones. The government has a target of switching off fake phones, I think, in the next year to start with.
Yes.
And one of the people who are going to help is Kasita. We've set up this program whereby we have about 1,000 points in the different regions, whereby those who have fake phones can actually return them. We give them original phones. The taxman is getting paid. I'm formalizing the trade. But I'm also digitizing the economy. You see how I'm hitting 3 birds with one stone?
Because we know that digitalization is also one of the key things.
You see how I'm doing, you see how we are looking at it from a much more top to bottom approach. So once we get that, it means that there will also now be the platforms we have been talking about for traders. If you're out of an arcade, you've been in Kampala, right?
Yes.
About 1/3 of those arcades are empty.
They're very empty down there. All these floors, you're questioning, so why is this arcade up if there are no people in there?
So how am I helping you? I'm giving you a platform whereby you can do online business, right? You can now start working from your home, have your small warehouse, wherever it is.
I mean, we saw online businesses thriving quite a lot during the lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, before that, it was not a thing that we were really accustomed to. It came in as a privilege, but after the lockdown came in, it sort of became mandatory for almost every business. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, looking at the national budget, its impact on the business community here in Uganda, and I do have a question here from Joel, talking about, he's asking, if you are increased the tax bracket, would that do anything good for the business community? I think because we already know we have a limited taxable bracket of Ugandans. So he's asking, would that actually help when it comes to the high taxes that we have been talking about? Then there is Belinda here saying, I would love to know how exactly how exactly Casita is helping the young people in business. The young people really want to know how exactly they can benefit, because they believe that some of the people in the sector don't exactly yield a lot of help when it comes to addressing some of their specific issues, especially when it comes to accessing funds that can help them start businesses, even during the process of running the business. And I do have here Melissa, who says that what exactly do we expect Casita to come and help us in when we talk about the financial year of 2023-2024? Yeah, I think we could just start with those.
Okay, so thank you, Belinda, and the other two gentlemen who mentioned a few things, like they mentioned something to do with informal sector widening the tax base. I think I'll start with that. Right now, government is looking at a few to solve the problems of many. It's what we call Pareto principle, that your 20% is giving you 80%, right? So the people who are paying taxes are few. The ones who are not paying the taxes, and they're the ones who are in the informal sector, are not paying those taxes. So that burden is coming to me. It is eating into my profits, as I told you earlier on. It is stopping me from expanding my business. It is stopping me from becoming more productive. It is stopping me from producing more. And it is stopping me from probably looking at exporting more surpluses. So if we widen this base, it would now mean that maybe where government was looking at 80% from coming in from the 20% as per Pareto principle I said earlier on, perhaps if this base increases by even just 10 or 20%, it means that the pressure would be eased off, and probably they will now come and look at collecting 60%. 20%, which comes back to me to reinvest in my business, will do a whole lot good for this nation. So for me, that is where I'm looking at it from. And as of course Casita, we said earlier on, because we have a huge network of 3.5 million plus people, we believe that we can help in this perspective. But for the informal sector, again, someone said, how is Casita going to help us? You get that? For me to go into that informal sector and start looking at my different members, they are going to ask me, Stephen, we want to pay taxes because we know the benefits. We know there are URA concessions on this. There is a concession in URA that says that anyone who has accumulated taxes, they will be forgiven penalties and I think interest as long as they pay within the period before 30th of December. You get that?
Yes.
A lot of these guys would want to what? To also enjoy these kind of benefits. But because they are informal and they are not really into that loop of taxes, they don't know how to. So now what happens is that those taxes are going to be transferred to them, maybe from the manufacturers area like VAT and the likes, because that is the only way we can be able to recuperate those taxes from the informal sector. So if these guys came into the fold, it means that they too can also do enjoy these benefits,
the benefits, right? Yes.
They can be also able to enjoy the so-called recovery fund benefits, because I'm sure even if they gave, they might give us this fund, they may not, but let's assume that they gave it to us, right? For you to get it, you'll probably have some kind of documentation. You'll have to be formalized whether you want to or not. So now you're saying, how are the youth being helped in this arena? But you're seeing how this whole expanding of bringing you into the fold is answering some of those questions. We can sensitize you, first of all, on what are the areas that you can use to kind of be smart about your taxes and save on your costs. We can be able to offer you a wider market, because we have markets in foreign countries like Southern Sudan across border, I think the East African Community, COMESA. So you see around 4 or 5 that speak to your core are being helped, but we are using the platform that Kasita has to help you address these problems. So I'm giving you a problem of offering you credit recovery. I'm giving you a problem of offering you the bit of using the taxman to kind of be smart about your taxes and not be harassed every other day. You see KCCA coming and then you're running around. You know?
It's chaotic.
It's disrupting your business. You get that? Because today if you're closed and the next day you're closed, it means that you're not serious. I will go to your next to your neighbor. So before you know it, your sales are going down and you're saying, but the fact is, it's stemming from these small issues. So again, we try to close that loop for you, and that is how I believe we can be able to help. We can be able to speak to the informality, we can be able to speak to the taxes, and we can also be able to add value to the members and of course the country at large.
Well, as we come, of course, close to the end of this, I really want to hear your final word, Stephen. What do we expect from Kasita this financial year? What changes are you bringing that will shake up the business community in a good way? As a businessman, as a Ugandan businesswoman who has a shop there running, what do I expect from Kasita?
Number one, a lot of the priority areas we've mentioned about, I think I touched some base, but I'll just summarize in a nutshell. One, as Kasita, our current digitalization is at 25%. We moved from 20 last year to 25, right?
Yes.
Now, our target is to move to 50% digitalization. We want to have that cell phone penetration. It is not going to just help us get a bigger online presence. It's not also going to just help us have more customer insights and more targeted approaches from different players like the banks and the likes, because we now have a platform that can address all those things within the click of a button. But we also believe that it will solve the issue of counterfeits that I told you earlier on, which are taking away the profits from the taxman.
Yes.
It is also going to help us scale up, as we call it, because if I have people on my platform, it means I can scale. It means that if a partnership came in, like say Movit and the likes, they can easily trade on that platform. So meaning that I'm also reducing your cost of doing business. So reduced cost of doing business means that lower prices for my traders. It means there are more profits for them. Are you seeing how all these are coming into play? But it's just one vertical, which is digitalization. It means that I can even sensitize using that digital platform. URA can come in and do courses on taxation and the likes. They can use the digital arena. We've seen some people like, I think, Enterprise Uganda, who are running some online classes. I think URA has also done something in that regard.
URA has actually done something, yes.
We are now giving you a much larger platform using that arena, using that method. So you see again how I'm helping you sensitize, how I'm helping you increase your tax base, how I'm making the cost of business for my tax people easier, but through digitalization. So that is one arena. Then the second arena is that we are going to be very aggressive in mapping out our traders. Yes, we have 3.5 million traders, but the ones we've mapped out so far about 1 million, 1.5. So we still have another 2.5 million we need to map out, so that when an entity comes, it could be a government entity, it could be a foreign entity willing to provide funds to help stimulate the economy. We now have a more targeted approach, and we say, okay, we have this cohort in this sector, we have this cohort in that other sector. So we are also embarking on increasing on that, so that by the time you come to Kasita and you say, I now want to look at, say, agro-processors in the beverage industry, I give you a database of about 1 million also who are doing it. So that way, you can have more targeted and more customized solutions for those kinds of people. So again, Kasita is going to be doing that. And we are going to also increase our partnerships with government. I said earlier on, partnership optimization.
Yes.
We mentioned something to do with public-private partnerships.
Yes.
So we want to optimize those. We are talking about URA and we're talking about taxes, but all these I'm giving you are solutions that help partner with these guys in order to scale up, in order to realize the multiplier effect, which actually was in the budget too. If you read carefully, they were saying that we want to have a multiplier effect in order for us to be able to get bigger returns, and then of course high impact in the fastest way possible. So again, those public-private partnerships are going to be very helpful, and we believe that by the things I've said, like digitalization, like segmenting, and also working together with cohorts like the youth, because we've aggregated them and we can have a bigger impact and we can do bigger things with them, we feel that this area will be able to increase output for the country. It will be able to streamline and make government's work easier, but also our other partners like the banks and the MTNs of this sort. So that is where Kasita is going.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for stopping by. And really, I would want to see fruits coming in at the end of the day. Stephen Sebugwao is the Deputy CEO at Kasita. And of course, as the year goes by, we'll be having more conversations with him and many other representatives from that entity. For now, we'll leave it at that. But Mollen Kenyena is coming in with sports updates. Later on, you'll be having a Kirabo on the Good Morning Uganda Extra Beats. Have a wonderful Monday and a very productive week ahead. I am Philomena Mastiko. Good morning, Uganda.
This is Good